Thank you, Madam Clerk. I will call the meeting to order. Welcome to our June 8th, 2022 Committee of the Whole. I'll start off with our land acknowledgement statement. We acknowledge with respect the history, spirituality, culture of the Anishinaabe, the people of the Three Fires known as Ojibwe, Odawa, Potawatomi nations who have inhabited this land from time immemorial. And further give thanks to Chippewa Saugeen and the Chippewa of Nawash, now known as Saugeen Ojibwe nations, as the traditional keepers of this land. We also recognize the Métis and Inuit whose ancestors shared this land and these waters. May we all, as treaty people, live with respect on this land and live in peace and friendship with all this diverse people. Moving on for agenda, we're down to the agenda. Is there any add-ons to our agenda here tonight? Deputy Mayor Carleton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to add discussion about Canada Day and also about the Kemble Drain meeting to see if we could change the timing of that to better suit the residents.
Thank you. Councillor Sutherland.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was going to add the Kemble drainage for time and location as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other add-ons to our agenda here tonight? Seeing none. The recommendation is that the agenda be approved as presented. That's not right. Sorry. As amended. Sorry. Wrong page. As amended. Someone to move, put on the floor, please. Moved by Councillor Colburn, second by Councillor Sutherland. If there's no discussion on the motion before us, show of hands, all in favor? Opposed? The motion is carried. Declaration of peculiar interest. You can clear any time you see that during the meeting. Public hearings. The recommendation is that the regular meeting of Committee of the Whole be recessed to host a public hearing for zoning amendment application Z0722 for property located at 3018837 Gray Road 1. Someone to move, put on the floor, please. Moved by Councillor Thompson, second by Deputy Mayor Carleton. Is there any discussion on the motion before us? Seeing none, a show of hands, all in favor? Opposed? The motion is carried. A public hearing for James and Deborah Stewart. This meeting has been called to consider zoning bylaw amendment application Z0722 for property located at 318837 Gray Road 1. Madam Clerk, please advise those by which notice of this public meeting was given.
Notice of this public meeting was given by ordinary mail to all property owners within 120 meters, 400 feet of the subject property, by email to all the prescribed bodies on May 4th, 2022, posted at the subject property and posted on the Township of Georgian Bluffs website. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Township of Georgian Bluffs before the proposed zoning bylaw is adopted or passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of the Township of Georgian Bluffs to the local planning appeal tribunal. The person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the local planning appeal tribunal unless, in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to add the person or public body as a party.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Would the planner please proceed with your review of the application? Jen, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good evening, everyone. So the intent of this application is to amend the zoning to permit a storage structure to be converted to a secondary dwelling unit. The structure was previously used as a dwelling unit, but was rezoned in 2015 for storage purposes so that the Stewarts could build a new dwelling. I'm just going to share my screen with you here. So this is a Google image of the structure that is the subject of this application. And I just get someone to confirm that it's actually up on the screen.
It is.
Okay. So this is the structure. This is the entrance to the property. And if you can see where my cursor is circling the new dwelling that was built around 2015, 2016 is at the back of the property. So what this means is that the accessory structure, if council approves the application, The secondary dwelling unit would actually be in front of the house, which is what the zoning bylaw it doesn't permit. So that's what they're applying to amend. So because the zoning bylaw requires that this structure typically should be in the side or the rear yard, as it's supposed to be subordinate to the main structure, the main house. So the effect would be to further amend the zoning on this property as it was amended in 2015 to allow that secondary dwelling unit in the front yard. So when you look at the planning report, there's a review, provincial policy, county policy, and the intent of the zoning bylaw do support secondary dwelling units. Effectively, it is the way that rural communities can increase housing options in the area. So from a natural heritage perspective, impacts are anticipated to be negligible, and there are no natural hazards on the property. As the structure is already built, there's no site alteration anticipated. So staff see merit in this application. We circulated the application to all of the required agencies as well as all of the residents within 120 meters. The Grace Level Conservation Authority noted no objection. The county, because it's on Grey Road 1, Transportation Services reviewed it. They have no concerns. The planning department noted provided servicing can be addressed and positive comments from the Conservation Authority are received. They have no concerns. The structure is already serviced with a septic system, and I believe municipal water is available to the property. Saugeen Ojibwe Nation have no concerns at this time as there's no shoreline work or change in footprint required. And the Risk Management Office at Grey Sauble Conservation Authority noted no comments on the application. And additionally, we did not receive any written comments from any of the residents. So as per the recommendation in the staff report, if there's no concerns raised this evening, it's recommended the application be approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Planner. No members of the public registered with the clerk to provide comments in support of or in opposition to applicant. Agent Ron Glenn registered to participate on behalf of the property owner. Mr. Glenn, please go ahead. Any comments?
Thank you, Your Worship. I have no comments further to the planner's report. It's pretty straightforward, and we support the initiative taken by the township staff.
Thank you, Mr. Glenn. Does the committee have any questions about the proposed application? Seeing none, I'll read the recommendation. It has been demonstrated that application Z0722 for Jim and Deborah Stewart for lands described as Part 447, Part Block E, Sarawak, is consistent with the Provincial Policy Statement 2020, the County of Grey Official Plan, Recolor Grey, and the intent of the Township of Georgian Bluffs Zoning Bylaw 2020. It is recommended that the application be approved. Someone to move, put on the floor, please. Moved by Councillor Sullivan, second by Councillor Colburn. Is there any discussion on the motion before us? Seeing none, a show of hands, all in favor of the motion? Opposed? The motion is carried. Thank you. Now I need adjournment of the public meeting. Moved by Councillor Colburn, second by Councillor Pringle. Show of hands for adjournment. All in favor? It's carried. Thanks, Jim. Okay, we're back to our open session now. We're down to delegations. Lynn Patty Vaughn, zoning application Z0222. Ms. Lynn Patton Vaughn, Ms. Patton Vaughn, you will have 10 minutes to submit your comments to council. Please go ahead. Lynn, come to the mic, please.
Thank you for letting me come and speak tonight.
Sorry, is the mic on?
Is it? Yes. Okay. With regards to my application for zoning bylaw amendment Z0222, a decision was deferred by council on May 11th, 2022, because the council requested that an environmental impact study be completed. I feel that an environmental impact study is unjustified because the evidence provided by the experts, both the engineers and the Grey Sauble Conservation Authority, show that it is unnecessary. I think it is unreasonable to have an environmental impact study done, since it has been established that the project can be done safely and with no concerns environmentally when done within the parameters outlined by the engineers and the Grey Sauble Conservation Authority. I started this journey rebuilding a garage with a loft on my property at 504-587 Grey Road 1, Georgian Bluffs, in January 2021. The first thing I did was to contact the contractor, Paul Jones, who installed a new septic system in 2012 on our property to make sure that I could tie into the existing septic system, and he confirmed that I had the capacity to do that. Next, I contacted GM Blue Plan engineers to establish if it would be feasible to build a garage in the proposed area. I chose these engineers because they are reputable, they are familiar with Georgian Bluffs and its particular challenges, and because Grey Sauble Conservation Authority and the Township of Georgian Bluffs are familiar with their work. GM Blue Plan had surveyors come to my property to do a topographical survey and a slope assessment. They came up with a lot grading plan and a drawing outlining where the optimal placement of the garage would be and the size it would be according to their assessment of the property. They have been in consultation with Grey Sauble Conservation Authority and have provided them with a letter of opinion. The engineering services have cost approximately $4,900. I requested a setback of 13.89 meters from the County of Grey Transportation Services, which was approved on January 10th, 2022. In doing their assessment, not only did Grey Sauble Conservation Authority refer to the notice of opinion from GM Blue Plan, but Mac Plews and Olivia Sroka from Grey Sauble Conservation Authority came out to my property in July 2021 to assess the entire property and the area of the proposed garage. Grey Sauble Conservation Authority and the GM Blue Plan consulted back and forth with one another. Grey Sauble Conservation Authority asked GM Blue Plan for a letter of opinion, which was provided. After review, Grey Sauble Conservation Authority concluded, I quote, Grey Sauble Conservation Authority has reviewed and approved the letter of opinion provided by GM Blue Plan to address the location of the structure in relation to the hazard area associated with the slope feature. With this, the proposal is considered consistent with Section 3.1 Provincial Policy Statement Policies, unquote. Grey Sauble Conservation Authority also made the following observations and recommendations. Quote, Grey Sauble Conservation Authority has no objections to the described zoning bylaw amendment regarding the decrease in the county road setback. Unquote. Quote, the proposed development will require tree removal to accommodate the structure. Grey Sauble Conservation Authority has no objections to the new development without the completion of an environmental impact study. We note that tree clearing activities should avoid the breeding window for birds from April the 1st to August the 15th, unquote. Grey Sauble Conservation Authority noted that the proposed development is not anticipated to negatively impact fish habitat. We recommend using appropriate sediment and erosion control measures to minimize negative impacts. Grey Sauble Conservation Authority recommended that the development address drainage to minimize impacts to neighboring properties and existing infrastructure. And with this, the proposal will be considered consistent with Section 2.2 PPAS policies. The only natural hazard noted by Grey Sauble Conservation Authority that would affect the area of the proposed build was the erosion risk. If the garage is built in the proposed location, the erosion risk is negligible if the parameters outlined in the letter of opinion by GM Blue Plan are adhered to. The flood and erosion risks of the shoreline have no bearing on the proposed build. As was stated by the planner, there are a number of instances in Georgian Bluffs where the dwelling is built encroaching entirely or partially on the shore road allowance. On March 3rd, 2022, when applying for the zoning bylaw amendment, I applied and paid the necessary fee to enter into an encroachment agreement with Georgian Bluffs. The Risk Management Office, Source Water Protection, commented on April the 4th, 2022, that the property is not located within a vulnerable source protection area where policies apply under the Clear Water Act. Therefore, we have no comments. The planner for Georgian Bluffs, who after reviewing all the reports and information concluded that it has been demonstrated that the proposed application is consistent with the provincial policy statement 2020, the county official plan, and the Township of Georgian Bluffs zoning bylaw 2020-020. It is recommended that zoning bylaw amendment application Z0222 for Lynn Patton Vaughn be approved. I consider myself to be an environmentalist. Through the years, wherever my husband and I have had a property and we wanted to build a shed or a deck or anything like that, we always made sure that we would not impact a tree if possible. We always had a hole cut around the deck so that the tree was left standing. And we started on a journey to treat our ash trees against the emerald ash borer and have them inoculated. And Grace Hobble Conservation Authority came out and did it until it was cost prohibitive and we couldn't continue. So we do care about trees. And I care very much about the environment. And I appreciate that the council is concerned about environmental impact in our community as well and are making decisions with that in mind. Where the garage is proposed to be built, if it was just the cottage, or sorry, just the garage being built, 4 trees would be impacted. But there is a rule from the County of Grey that you can only have 1 entrance per property. So I would not be able to have a separate entrance to go into the garage. I would have to go down my driveway, swing in and over to where the garage would be. And because of that, it will impact more trees. Jim Nickel from Grey County came out to my property this week and said that there is probably no way that they would allow me to come right off of Grey Road 1, that I still would have to do that even though some trees would be impacted. The previous owners of our property planted walnut, chestnut, mountain ash, and elm trees, and I would continue to plant trees for everyone that would be impacted by being removed from my property in order to build the garage. Unless an area has been previously cleared, the land there is all treed, so it would be difficult to build something without impacting a tree. The only place on the property where there are no trees is where my driveway is or the septic bed is located. Otherwise, it's well-treed property. And just to address some of the specific concerns that some of the members brought up at the last meeting, Deputy Mayor Carleton said that, quote, "It is a dwelling sitting entirely on the shore road allowance. It concerns me. It has to be well within the wave uprush zone. And where is the septic located for that property?" Unquote. A new septic was installed in 2012 with a permit from Georgian Bluffs. It has a raised bed and it is on my property. The tanks may be on the shore road allowance. I'm not sure exactly where the line is there. Because Deputy Mayor Carleton said that it is the dwelling on the shore road allowance, it concerns her. I don't really understand how that would justify having an environmental impact study done on the proposed build at the top of the hill near Grey Road 1. Councillor Coburn said that she thought that Grace Hobble Conservation Authority was recommending an environmental impact study in their report, but I just want to reaffirm that they were not. And I understand that they act as an advisory capacity to Georgian Bluffs. You mentioned, Councillor Coburn, about erosion and drainage issues with the proposed build, but both the engineers and Grace Hobble Conservation Authority have said that if guidelines are followed, it is not an issue. When you talked about the natural hazards and flooding potential, these concerns were not about the proposed build, but rather the existing dwelling. And I do not see the justification for an environmental impact study for the proposed build. Also, it has been established that the risk of erosion is negligible if the garage is built in the proposed location. In conclusion, I feel that I have done due diligence and have taken responsible steps to ensure that the proposed build can be done legitimately and with as little impact on the environment as possible. GM Blue Plan engineers, who are the experts on whether a structure can be safely erected, have outlined and recommended where the structure should be built. Grace Hobble Conservation Authority, who are the conservationists, the environmentalists, the watchdogs, and advisors to Georgian Bluffs, have no objections to the new development as long as the parameters that have been outlined are adhered to. I feel that there is enough evidence to prove that the build can be done in a responsible way with minimum environmental impact. I do not feel that an environmental impact study is justified, and I would ask you to reconsider.
Thank you, Lynn, for your presentation. Now open the floor up to council members. Deputy Mayor Carlton, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for your presentation. I think I wasn't very clear that evening when I spoke about, it wasn't so much the house on the shore road allowance, it was proximity of the septic system to the wave uprush. And in correspondence with our senior planner, she has indicated that there's other ways to, since that meeting, for us to be clear on everything being fine with that septic system being so close to the shore. So I think that will be part of what gets written into your encroachment agreement.
Okay.
So knowing that, then I'm fine with it. So thank you very much for coming tonight.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Other council members. Councilor Colburn, please go ahead.
Thank you. Is this far enough away from this microphone? I'm not causing any hearing loss. Thank you, Lynn, for presenting. It is reassuring to hear you address some of those points. And between our last meeting and this meeting, I have also had correspondence with our planner and a telephone conversation, and I'm feeling more comfortable about it as well. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Colburn. Any other comments from council? Councilor Pringle, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, thank you, Lynn, for the presentation there. I think part of the confusion, at least on my end of it, from the day that we had it presented to us was we were, at least I was, concentrating on the depth or the steepness of the situation that was at hand. And I think we're all fearful of the fact that maybe we're just going to slide into the bay. And that's maybe why we got a little bit sidetracked, or I got sidetracked on thinking that maybe we needed more information. But as both Deputy Mayor and Councillor Colburn have mentioned about further conversation and emails read today there, yeah, it does give us a better feeling about what happened and what's going on. And one thing I know I took that day from the presentation when we were looking at it, what all I kept looking at was that we needed walls built on your laneway, right? So to me, that was meaning it was obviously very steep going down there and to build up the laneway and stuff. So that was part of what was kind of maybe throwing me off a little bit, but we obviously got more clarity today and stuff. So that is all good. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Pringle. Madam Clerk, would I be asking for a motion to rescind the previous motion that we put on the floor?
No.
No.
So procedurally, the most correct way to move forward would be to provide a notice of motion to reconsider the motion that you previously passed to require an environmental impact assessment. Now, once that motion to reconsider passes and we reopen the discussion, we can then amend the decision and withdraw that requirement. So that would be my recommendation to move forward. Should you provide that notice of motion this evening, the motion to withdraw or rescind that requirement would then be on the June 15th council meeting agenda.
Madam Clerk, is there not any way we can address this motion tonight?
So per your procedure bylaw, that is the appropriate procedure. Should you wish to waive the procedure bylaw, we can have a motion to reconsider tonight and then a motion to approve Ms. Patton Vaughn's application.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I think I see Councilor Colburn put the motion forward to rescind procedural bylaw.
To waive the procedure bylaw.
Waive the procedural bylaw. Second by Deputy Mayor Carlton.
All those in favor?
Okay, so now it's rescinded now.
So now we need a motion to reconsider the motion to defer Ms. Patton Vaughn's application and require the environmental impact assessment.
Thank you. So that was moved by Councilor Sutherland, second by Councilor Pringle. And is there any discussion on the motion on the floor? See none, show of hands, all in favor of the motion? Opposed? The motion is carried.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So now that the motion is back on the table, we can amend your motion to approve Ms. Patton Vaughn's application.
So now we need a mover and a seconder to amend this motion.
Correct.
Okay, moved by Deputy Mayor Carlton, second by Councilor Colburn.
Thank you.
If there's no discussion on the motion on the floor, a show of hands, all in favor of the motion? Opposed? The motion is carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, everything's good. Moving on to the agenda, we have no correspondence. We're down to staff reports. First one on is the clerk's department. I'll read the recommendation that committee hereby supports leasing the Bruce Cave parking lot to Grace Falville Conservation Authority for a 5-year term commencing June 1st, 2022. And the mayor and clerk are hereby authorized to sign the lease agreement as attached to this report as Appendix A. Someone to move, put it on the floor, please. Moved by Councillor Thompson, second by Councillor Sutherland. Is there any discussion on the motion before us?
Mr. Mayor, if I may make one comment.
By all means.
If I can request one friendly amendment to the motion to add an apostrophe S to the end of the word Bruce to make it Bruce's Caves. I apologize, I missed that. And thank you to Councillor Coburn for noting that there is a difference between the two properties.
Okay, thank you. So be it. With the friendly amendment, is there any discussion on the motion before us? Show of hands, all in favor of the motion? Opposed, the motion is carried. Okay. Moving on, our next recommendation is that the committee hereby supports the creation of and the township participation in the 2022-2026 Grade County Joint Compliance Audit Committee, and that a bylaw to ratify said participation establish the committee and adopt the terms of reference attached hereto as Appendix A be presented at the June 15th, 2022 council meeting. Someone to move to put it on the floor, please. Moved by Councillor Pringle, second by Councillor Thompson. Is there any discussion on the motion on the floor? Councillor Coburn, please go ahead.
I don't really have, I guess I just have a question because this is new to me, but are these positions typically paid? Are they council members and are they paid to do this work, or is that, and if they are, is that something new?
Madam Clerk, could you please respond?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you to council. No, they are not council members. It's explicitly essentially prohibited that they are seated council members. They are members of the public that meet certain eligibility criteria, being, for example, accountants or people that have the ability to lend a financial perspective to the financial reports from each election.
Okay. Is there any other questions on the motion before us? Comments? None? Show of hands, all in favor of the motion? Opposed? The motion is carried. Moving on with our agenda, we're down to operations. I'll read the motion. That, oh, sorry, I was ahead of myself. That the $250 right-of-way occupancy permit fee for the Canadian Mental Health Association of Grey Bruce for their cycling fundraising event, Ride, Don't Hide, be waived. Someone to move to put on the floor, please. Moved by Councillor Coburn, second by Councillor Thompson. Is there any discussion on the motion before us? Seeing none, a show of hands, all in favor of the motion? Opposed? The motion is carried. Our next recommendation for operations. The council approves the surplus and disposal of the 2006 Volvo EW180B model wheeled excavator outlined in OPS 2022-14, and that the 1-ton pickup gravel retriever box grader include in the 2022 capital budget be deferred to 2023, and that a replacement fully outfitted with new wheeled excavator, including extended powertrain, hydraulic warranty, to be purchased with the remaining cost refunded from the vehicle and equipment reserves, and that the purchasing policy and requirements for request for proposal RFP be waived. Someone to move to put the motion on the floor, please. Moved by Deputy Mayor Carlton, second by Councillor Pringle. Is there any discussion on the motion before us? Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I was just curious on the that the purchasing policy requirement be waived for the RFP. So does that mean that, like, when we get the RFP back, then we're not going to? I guess I should be asking Tim. Sorry, Tim, sorry. Yeah, if when we do the RFP, then are you guys just going to choose the appropriate bidder? Is that how that's going to work?
Turn your mic on.
So, what would happen is, it's not just a case we're gonna go out to one person, I don't think. I think we're going to take a look and see if we get it. No, we just going to one? Yeah, okay. But we've looked at pricing and it's, you know, kind of, you know, if you order something now, okay, it takes forever the way the economy is right now, right, to get things in. And if you go through the tendering process, that's what you're, we've gotten into the same thing with pickup trucks, right? It takes forever to get a vehicle. So we're trying to deal with somebody locally, somebody who wants the business, right? And is willing to work with us both financially and equipment wise, you know, to, you know, get what we want in the timely fashion, because there's more to it. I realize cost and being fair is an important thing, but there's more to it than that. If we have to wait around and we're working with the vehicle that we have now, we're going to have downtime. We're going to have projects that aren't getting done. And we already know what happens when we're not getting drainage things done and we're not getting, you know, bushing done and stuff like that. So, yeah, I guess in answer to your question, we're going to go out there and get the best deal we possibly can, but that's going to be it, right?
Does that answer your question, Councillor Sutherland?
Yes, it does.
Is there, Madam CEO, please go ahead.
Yeah, I think through you, Mr. Mayor, and I think Mr. Lewis summed it up or explained it well. Maybe I'll just sum it up that we want to have the flexibility or the ability to single source if that's necessary.
Okay, it's a great way. Thank you for that. Councillor Thompson, please go ahead. You're muted, Councillor Thompson.
I thought it was just enough I took my hand down, but I have to unmute too. So I guess this is about, is single source, and maybe this will help me. So I think what Tim said was we're going to go out and look for the best price and the best machine. So, and that's some different criteria. That might be closeness, might be appropriateness of machine, it might be availability for repair, things like that. And so I like that idea. And I agree that it's a critical item and that we'll really need it for brushing and that we really need it for drainage. I guess I'm just curious, does single source mean, well, I'm just going to go to this place and get this machine? Like, or does that mean we're going to do some research and come back? So here's why I'm uncomfortable. It's a really, really big item and it's just a couple months after budget. And so I can appreciate it. It sounds like it's desperately outlived its capacity and it's a big problem and we need to replace it. I'm surprised we didn't have the conversation 2 months ago though. And maybe it's something that just sprung upon us and I can appreciate that. I guess I will just be honest and say I'm a little uncomfortable without us saying we looked at 6 places and we sourced it out in 6 places and this is what we think is the best decision for our money.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. And Madam CEO,
yeah, I guess I'm
go
just
ahead.
a bit confused. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor and Councillor Thompson, those are all very fair comments. And I think Mr. Lewis probably said it better than I did, that we will be looking for the best deal for the township. But to your point, there's other criteria. I think what we're saying here is our typical process would be 6 to 8 weeks. If we did an official RFP, put it on the street, left it on the street for 4 weeks, then we had an evaluation process, then we brought it to council, we could be 2 or 3 months down the road by following the official RFP process. Absolutely, we're going to shop around, but we're asking you to waive that more official 2 to 3 month process.
Tim, please go ahead.
The thing that I'd add is, I'd like you to know that this process, of coming and bringing this to you wasn't an isolated thing with just me or a 5-minute thing. I had a lot of staff involved from operations, and I got to tell you, they worked really hard and they worked together to come up with this and say, okay, yeah, we realize it's a surprise to us too, right? Nobody's more surprised than me, right? I just walked into this and now I got this in my lap, right? But they took a very conscientious approach to this. We had discussions about all kinds of dealers and all kinds of equipment and what the pros and cons and everything were. So it wasn't just an easy decision to say, hey, this is what we're doing. It's kind of, a joint effort and a very responsible effort. So.
Thanks, Tim. Councillor Thompson, you have a follow-up?
Yeah, so 2 things. Tim, I don't hold you responsible for this appearing at all. Like, I know things can sneak up, and I also, I know that you've been kind of thrust into this role. So I didn't expect that you would have prepared this ahead of time for budget for us. Totally appreciate what you're saying. My other question is, so I think I read in there that there's some concern about the brushing head. Is what we're looking at here a new brushing head, or is it maintaining the old brushing head? I think it's a new brushing head, right?
Tim, please go ahead.
It's a new brushing head. The one we have, the staff, we have 2 very good operators right now on that particular machine, or that are available to run that machine, and they're very conscientious about, I guess the best way to put it is the shortcomings of that piece of machinery and how to operate it safely. But at the end of the day, it has shortcomings, and I'd stop short of saying it's not safe, right? Okay.
Does that answer your question, Councillor Thompson? Okay. Is there any other questions on the motion before us? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, I'm going to request a recorded vote.
Okay, so a recorded vote has been requested. When I call your name, please indicate your vote in favor or in opposition. Councillor Ryan Thompson.
For.
Councillor Paul Sutherland.
For.
Councillor Kathy Moore-Coburn.
For.
Councillor Grant Pringle.
For.
Deputy Mayor Sue Carlton.
Or
And Mayor Dwight Burley.
For.
Thank you, and that carries. And for the record, Councillor Barfoot is absent.
Thank you. Moving on for our agenda, our next recommendation is that the approval of $27,619.61 for the fleet reserve be granted for the repairs of vehicle 255 2017 International Snowplow as outlined in report OPS 2022-15, and that the purchasing policy requirement for a request for proposal RFP be waived. Someone to move to put on the floor, please. Moved by Councillor Colburn, second by Councillor Pringle. Is there any discussion on the motion before us? Seeing none? A show of hands, all in favor of the motion? Opposed? The motion is carried. Madam Clerk, do we have any questions from the public? Kevin? We're down to new business. And I'm going to go to Deputy Mayor Carlton first, but before I go to Deputy Mayor Carlton, I want to offer a sincere apology to staff, council, and the ratepayers affected by my discretion having a conversation with a reporter and indicating the upcoming meeting. It was a very honest mistake on my part. I sincerely apologize for it. He asked me a simple question: what are the upcoming meetings? I told him. I even said the date and time and so on. But in all fairness to this reporter, Mr. can't think of his name. Rob Gowan. I have a great respect for him. If I had have said it's off the record, it would have been off the record. But in my carelessness, I was in a hurry to move on, and I did not tell him that. And that's why the free-for-alls were started by everybody being notified to the media. And that's not the way it should be done, and I sincerely apologize. Deputy Mayor Carroll, please go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to have a discussion about Canada Day. In the past, pre-COVID, we've done 8 o'clock in the morning out at Big Bay. I didn't know if we were going to go back to doing that or do the video messages that we've done in the last couple of years, or had there been any thought to what we were doing? Because that'll be coming up quicker than we think.
Madam Clerk, any comments?
I guess I would turn it back to council to see what you would like in this kind of post-pandemic world that we now live in. If you're interested in doing all of the above, then we can certainly accommodate. If you're interested in doing something new, we can kind of put our heads together and see what we come up with. Recognizing that it is just around the corner, we can definitely be prepared to have those discussions next week, if not making a decision this evening. So I guess my long-winded answer is we're prepared to do all of the above should this council wish to return to the pre-pandemic celebrations at Big Bay. I would encourage council to give consideration to the videos that you have been doing for the past couple of years, because I know they're well received by the community, and they're a good news feature as well for our community to see over social media, etc. So I would encourage you, if you're willing, to still consider doing that.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, and I agree 100% of what you're saying. The only thing is, with the amazing staff we have, I would still like to do the video myself, but I would like to see what other things staff could come up with. Per se, like we're past the pandemic, so I think we should do something different this year too. Madam CEO.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I guess this kind of caught me off guard. I haven't been here for a Canada Day in Georgian Bluffs, and I just would say we're probably 3 weeks away, and we might take some suggestions from council. We don't have a lot of discretionary staff time right now, so while this is an important celebration, we would appreciate some thoughts and direction. I'm not sure that should all be left up to staff. Thank you.
Councilor Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think the Canada Day celebration at Big Bay was always very well received. It's a nice start to the day. And I know that MPs, MPPs, and other political figures that they would try to make it there, and there was always a nice gathering. There was I think one day it rained. Other than that, I think it was pretty good. So I think it's always a nice little start to the day. I'd be happy to see that move forward. I realize staffing and timing is maybe not the best, but if we can put something together, that'd be great. But
Deputy Mayor Carl.
Thank you. I think in the past, a lot of the organizational work for this was done by Zach Carson. And so I guess it would be looking to Zach to see if he would be able or prepared to do that again. I think having it there at Big Bay is a huge community boost for out there. The fact that everybody makes that trip to get there. And I think it would be nice to go back to that. I think people have missed that.
Thank you. Good comments, and I agree 100%. Madam CEO, does that sort of help you out with your what am I trying to say?
If I may, I would suggest leave it with me and Cynthia, our CAO, and we'll connect with our facilities coordinator to see what we can get arranged. But thank you for bringing it up, Deputy Mayor.
So, Madam Clerk, you will want to start scheduling videos soon?
I will include an update on next week's council agenda.
Okay. Councillor Pringle?
I'm just trying to recall here, I guess it must be 2 or 3 years ago, I was out to Big Bay for Canada Day. Was there no other celebrations on in the township too the same day? Weren't we all over the place?
Yes.
Right. So I just didn't, I thought there was more than just the Big Bay one, so. Okay, that's all I wanted.
Community effort. It was good. Okay, so you understand what we're trying to say? Okay. Now, you had, both you and Councillor Sutherland had a, want to talk about the scheduled drainage meeting for Campbell, about the time and location. Councillor Sutherland, please go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, so I took a few phone calls, a couple drop-ins, and yeah, the time was a big essence on the. A few people are working still till 5 o'clock or 5:30, and they don't want to be late, and I can understand that. So I think I talked to them and said like 6, 7 o'clock. A lot of them seem to think 7 would be a good idea. The other concern was the location. They would really like to see it in Kemble because it is a Kemble drainage issue. We have a facility there. I realized I did talk to staff yesterday as well. We don't have internet at the Kemble Arena, but you know, there's got to be something. We've got 2 weeks. Maybe we can get internet there. Or I've also gone and looked. The Kemble Church has internet there, and I believe that we've held the all candidates meetings there. So there's microphone sound system there, and it would hold a decent number of people. I would say, you know, between 100 and 150, and still be able to do some social distancing there too. So I think that would be greatly appreciated. You know, given later at night, would be definitely appreciated as well. And you know, keep in mind too that we're going to ask these members of Kemble, essentially the ones that are going to probably show up, to drive 20-25 minutes with $2 fuel, $2 a liter fuel, right? So we're asking them to spend their hard-earned money on fuel now too. So I think it would be greatly appreciated if we could put something together to have it out there at, you know, a little bit later at night. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sutherland. I guess I'm going to turn it over to Madam CAO. Is it possible to do what Councillor Sutherland is suggesting?
Through you, Mayor Burley, to council, I think what I might just comment on is why, or the rationale, or some of the things that staff went through. So I think it's important that we're able to accommodate a large group. So that was one of the considerations, and this particular location wouldn't accommodate enough people. The internet is a concern, and not just at the facility itself, but whether internet in that area can support the hybrid meeting and the live streaming, I guess. So that was one of the other rationales. We have some infrastructure built in at Shallow Lake. So I just wanted to walk through the rationale for choosing the location that we did. The other thing is, from a staff perspective, this is a council meeting that we were hosting on the 22nd. And so staff is simply following the council format. Council meets at 5 o'clock. And so, I mean, if council wants to discuss time of the meeting, that's very fair. I might ask our Director of Corporate Services and Clerk to comment. I know she has been in contact with a technical team as to whether it's even possible to do something in the Kemble Arena and what the cost would be. Thank you.
Madam CEO, did you say the Kemble Arena or the church?
It doesn't matter. Either facility out there, I think your cost would be the same. And we would have a question about accessibility, I guess, as well.
Madam Clerk, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So just to build off of what our CEO has already commented, there was some rationale behind suggesting the Shallow Lake Arena, first being the technology aspects, second being the accessibility aspects. So Shallow Lake is an accessible facility, meaning it has an elevator to access the space, ramps, etc. And further to that, it has reliable internet and it has some of the infrastructure that we need to host hybrid meetings. And not only that, just effective public meetings built in already, meaning we do not have to bring in that additional infrastructure. So if we're considering moving this meeting to Kemble Arena, which would be my recommendation as it is a council meeting, it would be preferable to have it in a council space or in a township owned facility. So if we are moving it out to Kemble Arena, there are some considerations that would be applicable if we move from Shallow Lake. The first being council's procedure bylaw is indicative that all meetings are live streamed, and not only that, members of the public and council have the opportunity to participate in person or virtually. So those two aspects add additional complications to any meeting, including in this council chambers. So we have to be mindful when moving our meetings that we can still accommodate both of those aspects to meet your policies and remain transparent throughout the community. So we have a couple of considerations when it comes to Kemble. Kemble, while it may have internet, does not have reliable internet. So if we move forward with hosting a hybrid meeting and live streaming it, we have to be cognizant of additional internet provisions, which is an additional cost. Not only that, we have to bring microphones, live streaming equipment, and all of the other technological aspects that come with hosting such a complicated meeting. Now, if we move forward, we will be spending between $6,000 and $8,000 to host the meeting at Kemble Arena. Now, should we decide or should council find it beneficial that the meeting does not need to be live streamed or it does not need to be a hybrid meeting, the cost would be lesser, but there still would be costs associated with it because we do need to bring the technology out there. We do need to bring the projector, the microphones, etc. So the Shallow Lake costs are much less significant than that of Kemble Arena. I can appreciate that this council wants to accommodate the community, but that accommodation will come at a greater cost.
Madam Clerk, before I go to Councillor Sullivan, my concern is, and I be honest, I've not been in the Kemble Arena since staff started removing stuff. Safety concerns is a big concern of mine, and I don't know how the facility is ready for that.
So in conversations with our facilities coordinator, it is partially demoed at the moment, being all of the boards have been taken down. So it is more or less a storage structure, I guess I would say at this point. But with that being said, our facilities team could take the necessary measures to ensure that it is a safe space with the appropriate accommodations for the meeting. I will note that it is not an accessible space, so that is something that we'll have to be cognizant of.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Councillor Sullivan, please go ahead.
Thank you. Thanks for all that information, Madam Clerk. I wanted to ask a little bit about the live streaming and hybrid style. So would you happen to have a breakdown if we didn't do the live stream and if we didn't do the hybrid style?
Thank you, Councillor Sutherland. So essentially, if we do hybrid, we do live streaming. If we do live streaming, we do hybrid. They come hand in hand with the technology we would need. If we do not live stream or have a hybrid option, the costs reduce to, I would say, approximately $2,000 to $3,000. So it would be about half price.
Councillor Sullivan, please go ahead.
Thank you. That was kind of where I was going at. I appreciate that. I feel like the residents that live there are going to be there. They're not going to be live streaming or virtually joining. I do understand council could definitely be the same situation, that we might not be able to get there, so we would join virtually, but we've done that in the past where, you know, we've said, if you're going to be there, you have to be there. And I don't think this is I think this is an issue that we need to be there for these residents in their area. So I would like to see us move forward, whether or not it's live streaming or not. It doesn't matter to me. We can go old school. We've done it a million times before. So that would be my recommendation, that we have it at Campbell regardless. I'm not upset if it's live streamed or not. I don't think we're going to see that much virtual participation. If people want to come, they can come. It's, you know, let's get back to reality. These people need this, right?
Thank you, Councillor Sutherland. I agree 100% for all your comments, but I really feel that we should go hybrid. The simple reason that indirectly this could affect all the ratepayers in Georgian Bluffs. And I think it's information everyone should know, because the recommended changes and so on will be paid for by all the ratepayers in Georgian Bluffs, not just the people in the village of Campbell. So that's why I'm suggesting that I still think we should go full hybrid. I realize it's a cost, but I think we have to do that. I don't disagree with having it at Campbell. I'm just saying, point that out. Deputy Mayor Carlton, go ahead.
I guess what I'm questioning, the preference is to have it in one of our own facilities. But I just did a quick search online, and I know Campbell United Church is wheelchair accessible with the elevator. It's totally accessible. They live stream all of their services. Excuse me. So the technology must be there in the church if they're live streaming all the services. If we would consider not being in our own facility, I'm not sure why that has to be. And in all honesty, the church would be more comfortable in the Campbell Arena. It'll be cold.
I agree. Councillor Pringle?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I'm in agreement there too with Councillor Sutherland and stuff, that this is a Campbell area problem, and I think we need to address it in the Campbell area. I would not to say I wouldn't love to be in the Shell Lake Arena. It's a beautiful facility and can do a great job. But I think in what has taken place here over the last number of years with the Campbell ratepayers and stuff, that I think we ought to try and do everything we can to host it in their facility. I'm in agreement with not using the Campbell Arena and going to the church, just for the fact that you know, nobody's been in that Campbell Arena for quite some time. We're fixing it up or tearing it down, whatever we're doing with it. But that's where I kind of stand on it. As far as the financial side of things, I still think we owe it to the people of Campbell to do what we can for the people of Campbell in their own area. So if I had my way on it, I would like to see it in the United Church at 7 o'clock, give the people in Campbell a chance to get there. So that's just my 2 cents on it. If we can live stream it, that's great, because I think we should live stream. But if we can't make it happen, and we're still looking after the people of Campbell, I think that's the way we should do it.
Thank you, Councillor Pringle, for your comments. I guess I'm going to go back to staff. Madam Clerk, it's extremely important that we try to meet that, I hate to use that date again, June 22nd. Do you think you have enough time to put it together if it's, for instance, at the Campbell Church?
So the preparations have already started with our partnering kind of production team, I'll call them. I have had communications with them already, and they are prepared, just pending council's direction this evening, to move forward either way. I would simply ask for just direction to investigate the options, both at Campbell Arena and the church. I can do that investigation tomorrow. I appreciate that council is willing to host it at the church, but we would need to confirm that it's available for that evening. If it's unavailable, then we will have no other alternative than to move it to the arena. I believe I've heard that 7 o'clock is the preferred time. Heads nodding. Yeah, okay. So I guess I would simply ask for direction to that effect, and I will update council and the community regarding the location as soon as it's available.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I guess, again, does staff need direction from council to, because the time is very tight, to allow you the opportunity to move forward with either the Campbell Arena or the church without having to go back to council?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, we would need direction tonight.
Yeah.
We have to confirm with the company tomorrow, and we need your approval to spend the money if we're live streaming and doing a hybrid meeting.
Okay, that's what I thought, and I do agree that I would like to see staff have the opportunity to investigate both the United Church or the Kemble Arena, and I still think we should try to go full hybrid. That's my thought. Now,
So, Mr. Mayor, perhaps we can help with the wording for a recommendation then that you would direct staff.
I think that'd be a very appropriate thing to do.
Thank you.
So a few things, I think first, so my recommended wording would be that the Kemble or the special council meeting to consider Kemble drainage concerns be held at 7 o'clock rather than the aforementioned 5, and that the meeting be held at either the Kemble United Church or the Kemble Arena, and that staff be authorized to spend up to $10,000 to accommodate all technological aspects of said meeting.
Madam Clerk, can I ask you a question, please? Concerning, we had a off-site meeting to do with the biodigester out of our region, and we had to bring in some pretty high-tech equipment and so on because of no internet. So was that around the same cost or approximately, or?
It was similar.
Similar. Councillor Sutherland?
I just wanted to ask, could you just read that part about, was it the church first, or like, is there a priority?
No priority.
Okay.
I can treat the church as a priority, but I'm kind of treating them equally in my mind, because while the church may live stream, hybrid adds an additional complication. So we likely will still have to bring in a production team.
I'm still thinking the Kemble Arena in my mind is not really suitable for a good council meeting or public meeting because of, I think, the condition of the building is sort of starting in a renovation stage. I don't see a.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we will not have a meeting in a building that is not appropriate. I think for tonight, if you can leave it with staff to investigate both locations and authorize us to spend up to $10,000, I think that's what we need tonight.
Councilor Sutherland?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If neither of those locations work, come use my shed. It'll be empty then, so. I'd make that, I'd pass or set,
You're moving that?
move that motion, yes, please.
Seconder, Deputy Mayor Carlton? Without asking you to reread it again, does everybody understand the motion? I think I see heads nodding. Show of hands, all in favor of the motion on the floor? Opposed? The motion is carried. Thank you. So you got your direction. So under the new business, we've handled the candidate celebrations and the Kemble drainage. I believe that's all we had on new business. Does any council member have a notice of motion they want to bring forward? I understand, Councillor Coburn, you're going to bring one further on? Yeah, okay. We know closed session here tonight. Our next regular meeting is June 15th at 5 o'clock. If we no other business here tonight, a motion to adjourn. Somebody to move the motion, moved by Councillor Coburn, second by Councillor Thompson. There's no discussion, a motion to adjourn, all show of hands, all in favor? Opposed, the motion's carried. We are now adjourned. Thank you, everybody.